looks like.
I remember Colson, we seen him several months later at Lowe's, and seen him, and Colson looked at me and said, "Do you want me to whip him, Dad?"
See?
He said, "Do you want me to whip him for you?" I said, "No."
But that was our role. You know, you said you didn't want us to feel not support. We didn't want you to know. We were your support, okay? We were your little bouncers. That was our job. Like.
You know, and I thought to myself, no. I said, we don't want to have no contact with him. Let's just leave him alone. I don't want to, because then we'll be
I don't want to have to give him another $500 or a truck again.
I remember one time I had a guy that needed. You know, most of our church, we would take $20 in the offering on the church service, and I'd give out $50 by the end of the night, because people need gas money, and it's those who have to give.
Yeah.
And you know, but anyway, I had a guy one time that come and he needed help on his house payment. He said, I need a little help on my house payment. If you can help me, Brother Dash. And I said, well, all right. It was $400 or something like that. And I said, okay. So I helped him. And he said, come back next month. He said, you know, I'm still close this month. Can you help me one more time? I said, why, sure. Because I had to give. There it was. And then, so then come back the third month, and he said, can you help me one more time? And I said, I said, I can help you. I've got the money, but I'm not going to give it to you. Mm-hmm. He said, well, I understand if you don't have it. I said, no, I got it in my pocket, but I just don't think I should give it to you again.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, then you got to tell me what a rascal I was. You know what I mean?
Every time you turned it down.
It set me straight.
Yeah.
And I preached a message on it called Offended to Reality. That we are never in reality sometimes until we become offended.
Yeah.
And when I said no, and I began to think about times with us with the Lord. And does the Lord ever say no and we don't hear it when we're asking Him to do something for us? We're asking God to do this and change that person and make that person
I got stuck in
move?
that, like praying and be like, oh God, will you do this? But if it's not what you want to do, you don't. You just do what you want to do. But I would like you to do this. But if it's not, like, and then it was so long in like prayer life of like, I was like, all right, now how do I pray? You know, like I'd be like, God, look, this is what I need. All right, you know, but you got it. I'm gonna do whatever you need. You know, but just so you know what I'm thinking, this is what I'm thinking would be the best plan. But I'm with you, like, because it gets stuck in that never-ending cycle of like, but your will, but also I would like this done, but your will. You know, like.
I always pray, Lord, override my ignorance.
That's what I whenever, like, I say prayers like at night and I pray for Carter, my prayer is, dear Lord, please don't let me mess him up. You know, like, because he's kids, they have to learn things, but they come the way I believe, sometimes hardwired. You know what I mean? Carter is a very easy kid, and he always has been. He came hardwired to be a pretty good kid, you know. So I always pray, don't let me mess him up. You know, like, don't let me do nothing to mess him up. Like, you know, that's how I pray. And I don't know what started it, but that's how I pray at night. Like, and then I also, one of my prayers is, God, if I'm not supposed to go that direction or do that, slam the door in my face.
That's exactly.
Slam it, put my, you know, like my daddy did, slam my fingers in the door.
Slam
you know, like,
slam it till you
so
cry.
I know it's slammed. You know, like.
I believe we have to in those relationships.
But you know what's funny is, like, when he does, like with the situation of volunteering, when it slammed in my face, I was like, what, and mad about it, instead of seeing it as, okay, you know what, that was God going, nope, not that way, keep going down the next one. You know what I mean? You get mad at first, but you have to remember what you prayed for.
Well, you know, I think that's one of the things I've shared before, that when we think about how God sent Moses down to Pharaoh, but he said, by the way, I'm going to give you a message, and I'm going to make Pharaoh not accept it. I mean, here you got something before you, because God wanted to move the children of Israel out of Egypt. And I think there's times in our life, I believe there's people that are mean to you that don't want to be mean to you. Yeah. Because it needs to get you where you need to be. And if not, you'll stay in that same position. Yeah. And a lot of times it'll be a position that's too easy. You're too much motor for the job. Yeah. And you'll stay in it because it's easy to coast. If you're pulling a little camper and you've got a 350 dually, it's easy to do. Okay, so you're coasting with it. So same thing in some positions in our life. God has some great things for us that He wants us to do, and if we don't, you know, but it's so easy not to do that. It's easy just to drop back and coast in an easy
that's like
position.
I was talking about, some people are not your caliber of people. Maybe at a certain point they were your caliber and you were the right level, but your time to move up now. You know what I mean? You're ready for the next phase. They're not there yet. That's when you've experienced that friction and that door slam in your face, and you got to acknowledge it and go, okay, this is not a setback. This is moving me forward. You know?
You know, when I've talked to people that have remarried, that talk about how great their life is now than it was with their previous mate. Okay? And they'll tell me how great it is and how great my life is now. So But then I give him a few moments and I say, well, why are you still mad at that person if your life is so good now? Because if you would have stayed with that person, your life wasn't good. I said, so you should thank that person for this not working out, you know. And then, but what really got me is I also went to the other person, like the husband first, and asked them about it. But then I went to the wife. Because that first thing they done was start telling me what a rascal that ex-husband was. And I said, and how great their life was now. And I said, well, let me just ask you a question. I said, if your life is so great now, you know, and, you know, I shared with before, I had a buddy that was married to a woman that was very mean, little short, round, mean woman. And she would half beat him to death sometimes before he'd go to work, and would pour a box of Little Debbie's in his bag for lunch and make him take it to work.
About that part of it, though, if you've packed enough lunches in those buckets, at a certain point, you're like, take the Little Debbie's.
Pour the Little Debbie's in. See, that's terrible.
So I'm going to back her on that one. But
and I would see him, and he'd have scratches all over him, you know, where she would just was mean to him. But he's got a great wife now, and everything's working great. And I said, you know, you should be really thankful, because if that other woman would have been a little bit nice to you,
just enough for you to stand it.
So if Pharaoh would have said, okay, you know, we're going to give you a little more hay, a little more straw for the bricks. We're Egypt now. We're going to do little things for you, give you another little part of so you can grow your own garden. Yeah. Then they would have said, okay, we're staying. You know, Moses, you can't drive us out.
Yeah.
So but he had to be so evil to them. And there's just things in life. I really believe people have been mean to you that was for your own good.
For your own good, yeah. To move you on, to push you to.
That's exactly.
It's got to happen.
It's really something.
And that's that everybody for a season. You know what I mean? Your season was over, and sometimes it's an abrupt change to the next season.
Life is chapter after chapter. And I mean, I know that mine seems like I don't know. Now I'm not sure exactly.
Your chapters are weird because yours are abrupt changes to the next chapter. Like, one of the things I was thinking about, like, when Mom was pregnant with me, y'all had John Boys. And then somehow we made the transition to the TV station and to the church. What was the transition that while you're at John Boys, all of a sudden it's like, I'm going to have a TV station, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to open it in the War, West Virginia, in this tiny room above a theater.
Well, you know.
What?
We had 8 restaurants, and we got rid of.
I know this because people out town constantly tell me how much they love John Boys, and that I'm the reason it ended.
It was. You were partly responsible for that. And we got rid of them in 30 days. I was teaching Sunday school, had 32 children in the Sunday school class on Sunday morning. I would take the whole Sunday school class out to breakfast before church. I believe that's why my class grew.
Probably.
I would take them to breakfast. You know, we would have breakfast and stuff. But anyway, and when the Lord had really spoke to me and said, how long are you going to wait to do what I've called you to do? And I said, well, okay. So I got rid of everything in 30 days. Really good business. I was in a great business, but just shut stuff down and got rid of it and got out of it and just started getting rid of everything. And it was a tough and abrupt decision for the whole family.
Yeah.
And it just, but what really got me, you know, that class was really, while I was still ministering and stuff, the Sunday school class was doing good. But I walked in, and I've shared this before, I walked, the church I was at, it's a great church and a great pastor. He retired, and they got a new pastor. And I was when I was licensed I'm still licensed under H. Richard Hall, under Brother Hall, and because I love him. He's one of the greatest men I've ever met in my life. But Brother Hall, they would call him Jesus Only. That's back when there was Jesus Only and Trinitarian. They got that now. There's nothing.
Many names.
Nobody even talks about that anymore. They're so far past not even talking about it.
Because you don't even know the differences between them. Jesus Only, I only love Jesus too. What
it's not like it used to be. No. Okay, there was a season.
It got crazy though, so it shouldn't be like that anymore. The names got too crazy.
So what they done, where Brother Hall was a little more Jesus Only type, that they called me a Jesus Only, and the church I was in was a hardline Trinitarian church, okay? Which I've been a member of the Church of God since I was 13 years old, or younger than that, War, West Virginia, because in case I need to go to heaven, I'm still a member.
Gosh, lock it in.
So there I am. So I walked downstairs into the Sunday school to get ready to go upstairs, and he met me, this new pastor. He said, "Are you John Dash?" He didn't even know who I was. And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, we don't need you here anymore. You can leave." So he booted me. Okay? He booted me. First
How
he
old
asked
were you when that happened? Because we may have got booted at the same ages in our life phases.
So when he booted me, I said, well, isn't that something? But I knew that in my life you couldn't put me where God didn't want me to be. And I could sit there and teach that Sunday school class, and it was easy. Easy, man, easy. When I needed to be casting out devils and praying for the blind eyes and the deaf ears. So from that point, I began to go to the mission field, and every 30 days I would be in another country. I would be other places. My first trip to the mission field that I took one time, I used to take was Sister Hall. She took me, Brother Hall's wife took me to the mission field. But then one time I went overseas to Nassau, Bahamas. Didn't know nobody in Nassau, Bahamas. All I had was 2 boxes of New Testaments and some Bibles, and I had about 5,000 tracts that said, what must I do to be saved? And I got an airplane ticket, and I left. And I landed in Nassau, a one-way ticket, Nassau, Bahamas. Now, you children are all at home, okay? I'm there with a backpack with my clothes in it, a box of Bibles, a box of tracts, don't know anybody. So I got a taxi there to give me a ride, and I said, I'm looking for someplace to sleep tonight.
How are you alive?
So he took me to this, right on the street there was a guest, it was called a guest house. It was a room over top of a bar. Okay. And so anyway, I paid my money for the room.
As you do.
I said for a week at a time. I paid, it wasn't like $50 or something for the week. So anyway, it was a pretty rough place. It was so rough at night. You know, I put my pants inside of my socks so the roaches wouldn't crawl at my britches legs. And I always I had to sleep with a sheet over top of me, and I could see the bugs crawling on the outside of it. But anyway, and the music would play all night. That's all I could hear, man, outside that at Nassau and the Bahamas music. And then all day I would walk the streets passing out tracts, not knowing anybody. I would walk up and down every street. And I would ask people if they wanted a Bible. I had a little backpack. It was a nylon backpack, and I remember it tore up finally because I had it loaded with Bibles and stuff like that. And I would stop and sit on the street, and I would just give people a tract.
Yeah.
And there's so many friends that I made there and people that I made. I remember walking into a beauty shop one time. It was like just a little rough beauty shop, and a lady was sitting there, and she was crying. And I walked in and said, hey, can I give you a tract? And she said, yeah. And I got to talk to her and got to pray with her. And then I would go in the marketplace. The old Nassau, Bahamas marketplace was different. It was a lot of old women and stuff like that. It wasn't like all this Chinese stuff.
It's crazy now.
And I would sit with those women in the marketplace and talk to them.
Yeah.
And we would just talk and sit there, and they loved me. And when I went back years later, they would see me and remember me and come running and hug me.
Well, I mean, you probably were an anomaly.
No,
it's not like they were like, oh, which crazy kid is it with the backpack that sleeps over the bar? No, there's only one of those.
It was just but you know, when I started, I'd done that, and I would stay out of the country, and I traveled all over from Mexico to San Salvador to England. But I would go on the street and just take off like that, and I would just need a little bit of directions. All I would need, the Lord would just allow a little door open, and I'd go to places, no electricity, islands.
I remember
nothing.
there was pictures from one that Mom had went with you. And they had painted a banner or something, right? Where was that at? They painted a banner for y'all and had like you and Mom
had
painted
our picture on it and stuff like that.
Mom spoke there, which if you know Mom, that's insane.
It was.
But I remember seeing the video of Mom speaking, and I was like, look at her.
But you know, it was just the transition from that point. You know, there was a point there that I had, you know, and this come from me. You know, I'd never done a book report in school. I never stood in front of a class one time. Never. So just give me an F. I don't care. Just match the rest of the Fs. You know, I didn't care.
Like to keep it uniform.
I remember walking down the back street at War because I was just self-conscious and wouldn't walk down the street because I just didn't want to be seen.
Yeah.
I can remember times in my life I never wanted to be in front of anybody in my whole life. And it was just, there was a turning point there that you thought, when he said, how long are you going to wait? I really wasn't sure what he was talking about. Yeah. And I think that's the blind faith that sometimes you follow the Lord with.
Well, and the faith that if I'm going the right direction, he'll stop it. You know what I mean? If I thought I knew right, he'll correct me, you know? I tell Andrew too, it's like I preach this to him all the time whenever he talks about anything of, oh, I want to do this or I feel like I need to be there. you're going to be where you're supposed to be. Nobody's messing up God's plan. Nobody's coming against you. Nobody's going to be scheming over there that's going to do better than him. You know what I mean? He's got the plan. Just follow the plan. Yeah, maybe sometimes you stepped out of the line and not in the plan. He'll get you back. You know what I mean? Like, I just have firm faith that I'm where I'm supposed to be, and if I'm not, he'll correct me. You know, but it's my job to listen. You can't just go, I'll just walk wherever I want and God will put me there, and never stop and talk to God. You know, if you don't ever stop and ask for directions, you don't know you're going the right way. You know, you have to check in every now and then. You know, and at our house, everything is, well, did you pray? You know, Carter was putting his bands in for his braces the other day, and I said, you need to stop and say a little prayer before. You know, like, everything, stop and say a prayer. And afterwards, did you thank Jesus? You know, like, we pray about everything in our house. I said, because God cares about big, small, everything. Like, I'll pray over anything. I'll stop and pray. It doesn't matter. We pray before practices at sports, and you know, I'm gonna pray about it.
Oh Lord, you know, I think about that poor dog. We got a dog, you know, Lena at the house, and your mom's always trying to get her to pray. You know, when she's cleaning her eyes and doing her stuff, she's saying, Lena, say thank you, Jesus, Lena, say thank you. And I said, the very time she says that, I'm leaving here. I mean, if I can hear that dog speak like that.
Don't put it past her, okay? Don't put it past her. That dog has come back from the dead, and just her last little leg she's living on, literally. But you can't stop her. You can't slow her down none either.
No. You know, to be...
She's got more attitude than a dog 10 times her size.
I can't understand her. I don't know. I don't know what to do with her. I don't know. I keep looking at her and thinking, well, she just stays on.
No, she just stays with just anger and just annoyance.
So when you think about your brother and sister, you know,
which I do often with care and concern.
There are, you know, the difference when I think about you kids, it's just, and I think, and I told your mom, I said, I'm glad we stopped at 3 children so we didn't have a bad one.
No,
I said,
stopped at perfection. You had me and you were like,
if we'd have had another, and I would love to have had 10, but I mean, but you're bound to get some rascals if you got 10, ain't you?
That's what, well, me and Andrew, we wanted, whenever we first got married, we wanted tons of kids. That was like, we wanted tons, you know, and I had the miscarriage before Carter, and then I had Carter at 26 weeks. So the decision was made, you're done, you're having one. But now we look back, and I tell you, I was like, it's probably good, because that kid was so good, such an easy baby. I was like, we would have got one that swung from the chandelier.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about where you had him at 26 weeks.
26 weeks.
So how did that go?
We had the miscarriage before at 21 weeks. So we were already high alert, like, be ready. And I went into labor with him at 26 weeks. I was in labor all day long, and I had no idea. Me and Mom went on a walk. She was like, maybe it's just, you know, where you're belly, because I was big. If you see me, you wouldn't think I was 26 weeks. So just thought that's what it was, but no. Turns out we got to the hospital. It took time for Carter, you know, and I had to have an emergency C-section. I remember going down the hallway praying out loud. Like, I told him, I'm going to pray. And the woman grabbed my hand saying, you go ahead, lady, I'll pray with you. You know, like, just... It was a whirlwind. We were in the NICU for 3 months, which, I mean, it was terrible, but there's so many memories that are a blessing. I think that's what bonded us to where we're that 3 little huddle. We're always together wherever we are, because that's how we were. It was hours sitting and staring at an isolate in the tiny room, because he went and got the MRSA infection when he was a baby. A whole bunch of them did. So he had to be even more isolated than a normal NICU baby in his own little room by himself. So Carter got a suite, we like to say, in the NICU, which it was... Y'all were there.
Yeah, I mean, and you can hold a baby in the palm of your hand.
Tiny, right here.
I mean, it's just fascinating. Now, I guess that's what, you know, and I just want to, I'll touch on this. When we think about abortions now, to me, I just can't, I mean, and I know it happens, and there's forgiveness, okay? There's forgiveness. But if you can be for that,
you got to seek the forgiveness. You got to see it wasn't the choice. There was other choices. There's forgiveness if you seek it and everything. But if you're going to stand there and still say it wasn't, I've seen, I mean, when we named him Austin, our first, we had him at 21 weeks. His baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
his arms, eyes, mouth. He looked like Andrew. You know, like he was baby. 100%. That's 21 weeks. People will have an abortion at 21 weeks. And even when Carter was born, there was a baby in the NICU, a couple isolates from him, that was born at 20 weeks. Yeah. That was a baby. I seen parents around that isolate family coming to see that baby. You know what I mean? It's a child. Yeah, I you know, it's heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. And you know, like 70-80% of these children that are aborted are black babies. Yeah. Okay, when people think about the amount of time
I mean, if you ever thought of an assault on the black community,
it's that.
It's this. It's Planned Parenthood, which is the
awful.
crookedest bunch of dogs that I've ever seen in my life. It's just so. I mean, it's heartbreaking.
There's just no excuse. There's so many other options for it, and I don't care what the thing is. You want to do the broad scheme of, oh, it was this or it was that, how they were conceived. It doesn't matter. That's still a child.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't.
Right.
So if this child, their parents are awful people, does the child not matter?
Right.
The child matters. It doesn't. I don't care how it got there. That's a child.
Yeah.
That's a human. That's a baby. It deserves a chance. Maybe it was going to do good. You don't know. You
Right.
never gave it a chance.
Right.
And if the whole I can't take care of it, that's why adoption is a thing. I mean, it's so easy to find. And they have them where they'll pay for everything. You think, oh, I can't take the financial cost. There's adoptions where in the contract, they buy your maternity clothes. They pay for every doctor's appointment. They'll pay for vitamins you need.
Right.
I mean, there's so many reasons to not.
Yeah.
There's every reason that you've given that you need to have one, there's a reason why they can help you, and it cannot be the choice.
Right.
There's so many.
I know it's heartbreaking. I think about it a lot, and I guess it's heartbreaking, and I know it has always been, but it seems to be abortion
So it
used
has a
as
lot of bad things, though. It doesn't mean they need to always be.
It seems to be like a form of birth control almost. For
insane.
people, and I don't know, man. I'm not afraid to speak out on those positions and do
No.
that. There's just a different point you begin to come to that right is right and wrong is wrong, and murder is still murder.
Yeah.
And that
I
child
think it's
is
such
murdered.
a thing to throw in the face of, too, because being able to be pregnant is such a blessing. So someone that
Right.
I did everything I could to stay pregnant for 26 weeks. I
Right.
mean, I was put myself on a temporary bed rest. I
Right.
did everything I could to try and stay pregnant. So when you get that opportunity,
Right.
don't think of that as a burden. Even if you're not keeping that baby, if you're giving it for adoption, that is such a blessing to be able to do and to give somebody that somebody
Right.
can only dream of. There's so
Right.
many women that are infertile and can't be pregnant.
Right.
It is absolutely insane thing to be able to do. It's fascinating. It's not something to be thrown away or looked
Right.
at as a burden.
Yeah.
It's not. And the same thing, I think, whenever they're like, oh, I can't do what I want if I have a kid. I do whatever.
Right.
Carter, it's a blessing. I'm a mother before I'm anything else, and that's not a sacrifice. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I've got to go do this. I get to go do these
Right.
things with my kids because I know it's a blessing. It's not even in just the froofy way. I wanted to be a mom. I want to do that. But Carter he's not just my son, we're friends. He's my
Right.
friend. I knew he was mine the moment I had him. I knew I was his. Locked down, that was it. I want to do things with
Yeah.
him. So don't have the abortion out of fear. You know what I
Right.
mean? You can be a mom. You can.
But
It's rewarding.
What is going to be cool
Oh, no.
is when some little old pretty girl comes by with ringlets in her hair, and old Carter gets that emotional thing churning in his heart where he says, "She's so pretty."
She's gotta have red hair.
Okay,
I've just embedded that into him
I'm just thinking
constantly.
because it never works out. But I mean, it never works out good as far as with the mother and that one that's going to steal
I
that.
am a delight to get along with. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but when she comes along, and it's just going to be something. That's like Morgan.
Me and Michelle didn't have that, though. When I
Right.
came along for Andrew, Michelle was like, here you go, take him.
Yeah, she wanted him to leave. Yeah, I sort of was like that with Andrew too when he come along.
Yeah, y'all took Andrew,
yeah.
they took me.
But,
So maybe it'll work that way. Maybe I'll find a little Kelsey. But I tell him all the time, I'm like, Carter, they don't make them like me anymore. Okay, so you're gonna have to I don't know if you're gonna be able to find a woman who can take the sarcasm we hit at each other all the time. I came downstairs today and I was still wearing my getting ready pajama
Right,
around the house
right.
clothes, and he goes, "Is that what you're wearing?" And I responded with, "Yeah, this is exactly what I'm wearing."
Yeah.
So he's got to have a woman that can take that.
Yeah,
So-
you may have to order her online.
we might have to
I'm
because it's
thinking-
very specific needs. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to have backbone.
Yeah, I can see where
Strong,
this could be.
like a steel.
Can you imagine how Morgan is going to be when Caleb?
That's gonna be worse.
Because I mean, that boy, she really
Yeah.
a lot revolves around that boy. I mean, she's going to be
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it's going to be.
It's going to be
fascinating.
Colson and Chris will be the opposite. When somebody comes for Colson, they're like,
Yeah.
"Thank you, you
Okay.
occupy him for a few minutes. We're out." That's going to be a saint of a woman.
It's a hoot, man.
He's a lot. He's a little bundle.
Well, we have covered a few things that we had wrote down.
A few things. I don't
Okay.
know if I had any good ones to give you that I hadn't gave you.
I don't know if we've.
I think we've covered a lot of
I think we've covered subconsciously. We have covered 20 questions.
Yeah, I think we accidentally covered a lot of them. Sorry, Mom, that we didn't ask them all directly.
I think next time what we need to do is just talk about other people.
I like to do that.
Okay.
It's my favorite thing to do.
And the world as we know
All
it.
the wrong choices they made, how we would have done it better. Carter is tired.
Oh.
Carter's tired. See, this is how my life runs. My mother now, it's all over.
Your mom, she don't know I have the hard part, and she's just, it's really hard on her to sit in.
On her.
He has to sit in.
But you know what? If people hear all your stories of every story you just told about your crazy life, remember that she was at home,
right?
Okay, holding the fort down. So she's really been through a lot there.
Well, when we had you, I just dropped her off and went to Mexico.
Yeah, it's in your Bible. What was it? Like a week after I was born, it says in there that you went to Mexico. I was like, Dad, I was an infant.
Well, what was I to do?
I still smelled brand new, baby smell.
What was I supposed to do?
I don't know. Stay home.
And do what? I mean, I'm not going to change a diaper. I'm not going to feed you.
I was so cute. So cute. The first baby picture of me and Morgan, she's going like this.
Yeah, that's always been her attitude.
Yeah. Colson was thumbs up at me though.
Yeah,
so that explains our whole dynamic quite well.
Really. All right, next time our commitment is to talk about other people.
Their mistakes and how we would have done it better.
We're gonna come up with some questions about the world. And what they need to do different.
Yes, absolutely.
So we can take the highlight.
What did you get in trouble for the worst when you were a kid? What was the worst time you got in trouble?
Oh, skipping school.
I knew it was going to be.
I skipped school one time, and there's other things that I've done, but not real bad stuff. I remember one time that my mom and dad didn't know it, but I was with some boys, Jim Shelton and Ricky Beavers and some of them, but they had cigarettes, okay? So they gave me a cigarette, and I said, whoa. So I didn't want to smoke it, but I put it behind my ear.
You didn't want to,
I started walking down the railroad tracks on my way home. But first thing I knew is I'd go to hell for smoking that cigarette. Yeah. And if my mom and dad found out, I would go to hell before hell. It's going to be worse than hell. So I dug a hole in the ground, okay? Piece of wood right beside the railroad tracks, and I dug a hole, and I put it in the ground and covered it up. Then I laid a big rock on top of it because I knew Jesus couldn't see it. But when I skipped school, I thought, I don't know why I skipped school, but anyway, I skipped, and Jim Shelton and I went in an old house up on the hill, and we were playing cards till we got bored. And then it got up around lunchtime, and we were hungry. We got hungry, and we said, well, we'll sneak back down to the house and get us something to eat. Now, meanwhile, the school had called. My parents were crying. They were all, Mom was mad, and everybody was upset, thought maybe we'd been kidnapped. And so when I got down the house and I opened the door, there was my dad, my grandpa Shelton, and my mom.
He had intervention.
My dad had these switches that were just a step below a telephone pole. And he took to whipping me with that. And, I mean, my dad, too, when he whipped somebody, he whipped you. I landed on the table, okay, up on the table, and he's whipping me, man. He's whipping the fire out of me, okay? And so then it's after lunch, he goes and makes me put a pair of shorts on and takes me back to Excelsior to school. And they only got like an hour left.
You're still going to go.
There I am, beat up, look like I've been in a bar fight.
Did you skip school again after that?
And he told me, these were his words. He said, you do not have to go to school when you don't want to. You just tell us because we don't want to be worried about you.
And so that's what happened afterwards, right?